Yontif. When I was in rabbinical school, I served a congregation in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. Every other week, for 2 years, I flew down from Cincinnati, Ohio to Fort Walton. It was the only time in my life I've gotten any kind of status on Delta. I felt like a true jet setter. And when I was in a rideshare, standing in line at the airport or on a plane, people would see my kippah and strike up a conversation with me. I wasn't always sure how to engage when the first question they threw at me was, "Are you Jewish?" Or, "What's on your head?" However, most of the time, people started off with pleasant, "So what do you do for a living?" Or, "Are you headed back home or on your way out?" One time, when my rideshare driver in Cincinnati found out I was a rabbinical student, he was thrilled to show me his trunk full of Bibles that he gives away to his passengers and folks at the airport. I politely declined his Bible. I didn't need the sequel. Many travelers were puzzled why I was flying to the beach in a suit, and they nodded politely when I explained that there is a thriving Jewish community in Florida's Panhandle. And others looked at me like I was crazy. Maybe they thought that they heard me say rabbit. Many of these conversations stayed on the surface level, but I missed a real opportunity to transform mundane moments of travel into real sacred occasions. Today, I'm far more confident in my Jewish identity. Despite the ubiquitous rise in anti-Semitism, I readily out myself as a rabbi when the topic comes up. I've found that a little vulnerability can lead to moments of awe-filled holiness. Recently, I was inspired by Auburn University's legendary college basketball coach, Bruce Pearl. This past April, in the press conference leading up to the NCAA men's Final Four basketball tournament, Coach Pearl did something we don't often see. Before Coach Pearl answered any questions, he took the microphone and addressed the reporters. He told them that he wasn't thinking about basketball. Instead, he was thinking about Eden Alexander. At the time, was the last remaining American hostage held by Hamas in Gaza, since released. One of the biggest stages in college athletics, and Coach Pearl chose to address the plight of the hostages. He expressed something deeply Jewish in a moment that could have been otherwise unnoteworthy, and it made the news. In that moment, Coach Pearl took a mundane tournament press conference and made it holy. The great Rabbi Joseph Soloveitchik describes such moments as fulfillments of our covenant of destiny. As Soloveitchik explains, Jews have two covenants, fate and destiny. The covenant of fate is simply our Jewish identity. We cannot outrun who we are, so we share a common fate with all Jews. Necessary, but ultimately uninspiring. On the other hand, we fulfill the covenant of destiny when we choose to lift up Jewish values for all to see. This happens when we transform everyday moments into something sacred. And we don't need a stage like Coach Pearl's to do the same thing in our lives. We can raise our lives from profane to holy on a daily basis. At the smallest level, we can create sacred moments when we eat. I bet there are more than a few of people here who have their meals on the go. I know I'm guilty of that. Without enough time to sit down and have a proper meal at home or at a table, we end up eating in the car, at our desk, or standing in the kitchen, grazing while we do 10 other things. However, we often miss the opportunity to connect with something bigger than ourselves when we eat mindlessly. We can still find holiness in our food even when we are rushed by taking a moment to say a blessing. We can thank God and the many hands who farmed our food for providing us with sustenance from the earth. This is all the more true when we sit down for a meal. Maybe we are accustomed to giving gratitude at holidays like Thanksgiving, maybe Shabbat as well. But maybe, even when it's just Wednesday night chicken nuggets, we can still acknowledge the sacred act of eating. Holiness is what we create when we knock ourselves out of autopilot and focus on the relationships and connections around us. No matter our age or stage of life, we've all been in a class, a meeting, or an event that gets down to business right away. What if, instead of getting right to work, we began these sessions with a moment to check in, connect with the people around us, and maybe make some new connections? I was inspired by the work of Priya Parker and her book, The Art of Gathering. Parker says that a gathering should never begin with logistics, like Coach Pearl, who began his press conference talking about something holy, talking about Eden Alexander. The next time you're in the position to lead a class, a group, a meeting, or even a meal, take an intentional moment to check in with the people around you. When we strengthen the bonds between us, we take something ordinary and we elevate it to a level of sacredness. When I think about our daily lives and the opportunities we miss to build sacred connections, what comes to mind is something we all do every day. We had to do it here today, driving in Atlanta. And driving is about one of the most mundane activities we do. And as we are aware, we try to remain as physically distant from those around us on the road. We drive with a healthy amount of suspicion for the cars around us. We're not looking to make friends while we're on 400 or 285. But that doesn't mean we have to treat everyone like they're a potential threat. Whether it's the steering wheel wave, a duck on the dash of a Jeep Wrangler, or giving someone a generous interpretation as to why they cut you off, there are ways we can remember the humanity in one another, even when we must remain physically distant. Every time we miss an opportunity to make one of these connections, we commit what is called in Hebrew a chet. Most English translations call that a sin, but that's not really the best translation. The word chet doesn't mean sin. Rather, it means more like to miss the mark. It's like an arrow that misses the bullseye. when we miss the chance to add holiness to the world, we've missed an opportunity and committed a chet. And for that, we must ask for forgiveness. We try to model this kind of holiness at Temple Emanu-El. When people think of us, they often say that this is the place where you are seen, welcomed, and included in the life of the community. We are the place where we turn to our neighbors at the beginning of every gathering to greet one another, learn each other's names, and deepen the bond between congregants. We need more sacred connections in our world. I'm grateful when I see professional sports figures like Coach Pearl remind us of our shared humanity. His press conference back in April put everything in perspective. I only wish it would happen more often. If our public figures won't make it happen, then we must be the model. We must strengthen our relationships if we are going to heal our fractured world. In the next 25 hours of Yom Kippur, we've got the opportunity to add this holiness to our lives. When we drive, when we gather, and when we eat, God willing, at 6 p.m. tomorrow after the final shofar blast. We can raise up the sacred connections between those we love and those whom we are only just meeting. As we begin 5786, let us heal the wounds of a broken world by strengthening our relationships and turning the mundane into holy. Shana Tova, Gemar Chatima Tova. May we have a good year. May we be sealed for good in the book of life.